You know, when I hear a person say to me that they don't vote, the first thing I ask them, are you Jehovah's Witness or something like that? And then I say to you, and you say you're not. Then I ask one other question. Are you a formerly convicted person? Are you? You know, so now you should know that if you, by being a formerly convicted person, they done took away your right to work. They done took away your right to be able to live. They also took away your right to be able to get higher education, licensing. Okay? Now these are things that's important to you. And in the process of doing that, they took your vote. So what did that tell you? You don't have to be a rocket scientist and humans, you know, to be involved in stuff, to be involved in the community and being in a leadership position. You have people follow leaders by example. And your example is not correct because you're not participating. And it's actually a contradiction in terms of what you're doing. You know what I mean?
Thank you, Wayne. 1 second, Joseph. What is it?
One of the things that I like to tell people when I go out and I go into the jails and I register people and they have that same exact question and statement that you just made. And one of the things that I like to tell them is that there was this group of men that came along. And when they came along, their sole mission was to stop people of color from voting. Why did you come here today? We came here solely to stop the Negro from voting. That was the root of denying people with felony convictions the right to vote. Then I say, people have died. They have been beaten. They have been bloodied. And they have been gassed. They have been kicked. And they have been spit on. Just so that we can have this right. Who the hell are we to sit down there?
We have some questions out of the audience. Tina, please. Okay, let's please short it to 1 minute, sir.
Listen, there's no such thing as nut voting. To nut vote, silence is consent. That's not just for formerly incarcerated, that's for anybody. You vote by nut voting. You say that the status quo is all right. If I kick you in your behind and you don't do nothing about it, then I'll kick you in your behind again. You understand? Because silence is consent. So there's no such thing as simply because you've been in prison or they took away your right to vote and you don't see nothing coming out of voting. If you don't vote, then you say that the status quo is fine. And that's the answer to that question.
Well spoken, brother. Well spoken. Yes, ma'am. Go ahead, please.
There's a strategic voting power tie-in that maybe we, with our concerns around disenfranchisement and re-enfranchisement, that we can sort of feed some talking points into that, and as people are saying, like seize back the currency. If it's sitting on the near the bowl or whatever, that's one type of currency. But if it's actually getting out there in 2012, can we do that?
Okay, let's go ahead and answer 2 questions with 2 of our panelists, and I ask the panelists again to please keep your responses short. First question is, how do we get the information about the candidates out there, other than the issue? And I'm going to ask Brother Norris to go with that one. And then the other question is about how do we address formerly incarcerated who may have different religious views or other political views that contradict the purpose of the movement overall. And I'll go with Brother Bennett-Lee. Brother Norris, please.
In response to your question, we do jail-based registration. And one of the things we did in the height of the 2004 election, when we went into the jail.
I wanted to know, like, she came to where I. Is anybody in here Jehovah's Witness? Because I have lots of friends that are Jehovah's Witnesses that don't vote. How do I change those people? You can't.
You have to respect their religion.
Thank you.
Okay. Anyone? One second.
Go ahead, man.
My name is Sharon Hunt. I'm a publisher of the LA Progressive. And we write a lot of articles about the prison industrial complex, but one of the things that when you talk about voting and incentivizing the formerly incarcerated, I don't know how to keep this thing on, it's important that you have an issue that they can work on. And so you said something, and a couple of other people made me think of judicial races. Judicial races in California. I'm just going to speak it out there. Judicial races in California. In the state of California, we vote for our judges. Yeah. And 90% of the judges come from the far right position. Many of them were ex-prosecutors.
Just like Philly.
And, yeah. And we don't have any information about those people that we're voting for. So I was wondering, do any of you couple that, judicial races, like the story you just told, with incentivizing the formerly incarcerated? If they understood that they could switch the flavor of the bench, because right now the bench is populated by white, middle-aged men who are mostly Republicans. And we, if they had the power to vote, we could change that. So you local.
Go ahead, sir.
I'm Bruce Riley from now New Orleans, formerly of Rhode Island, and you know we did a lot. We made a lot of changes in Rhode Island by targeting people who were formerly incarcerated. I personally got out of jail and wrote the constitutional amendment that gave people their voting rights on probation and parole. And when we say this is what we're working on, this is why you need to vote, it resonates. You know, like you're saying, you give them something, give them an issue to attach to. But my question is, you know, with Florida and Iowa recently, the governor's just saying, oh, we did allow you to vote, now you can't vote again, and they had that power to do so. And, you know, 10 years ago in Massachusetts, prisoners could vote, but now they cannot, and they call it a punishment. So there's been some rollbacks of some of these changes that the victories we've won. And I'm wondering if there's a tie-in with the Occupy movement, not to just jump on everything's Occupy this, Occupy your mama, all this stuff, right? But I'm wondering if there's a strategic voting power tie-in that maybe we, with you know our concerns around disenfranchisement and reenfranchisement, that we can sort of feed some talking points into that, and as people are saying, like seize back the currency. If it's sitting on the you know near the bowl or whatever, that's one type of currency. But it's actually getting out there in 2012. You know, can we do that?
Okay, let's go ahead and answer two questions with two of our panelists, and I ask the panelists again to please keep your responses short. First question is, how do we get the information about the candidates out there, other than the issue? And I'm going to ask Brother Norris to go over that one. And then the other question is about how do we address formerly incarcerated who may have different religious views or other political views that contradict the purpose of the movement overall. And I'll go with Brother Bennett's lead. Brother Norris, please.
In response to your question, we do jail-based registration. And one of the things we did in the height of the 2004 election, when we went into the jail, the sheriff was running for re-election, the district attorney, and all the judges. And so we were like, hey, check this out. You have an opportunity to have an impact on this person. And what we advise them that when you go to court for your hearing comes up before your court date, you ask the judge to give you a continuance for the sole purpose that I want to vote in this upcoming election. And the message that resonated to the judge was like, wait a minute, if I allow this guy to vote, he may even in turn vote for me. But the thing is again, low-hanging fruit, and it's something that they can have an impact with. The biggest thing is, that's how we're going to flip it. We don't do enough of, what we call that, the background piece about where people come from, who they were prior to them jumping into a race for election. We have to start using the same strategies and tactics that these folks use to push themselves out there. People running for judge, they got a history. There probably was a lawyer somewhere along. There was a prosecutor who sent people to jail. Do we want this person to be a judge? Do we want him to be dog catcher for that matter? That's the stories we got to start telling our people about.